They say some roads have no memory, but this road remembered everything. It remembered every footstep, every tire mark, every tear shed into its dust. And today, it was waiting. Vivian sat upright in bed, her heart pounding. The dream was vivid, a fiery road twisting like a snake, swallowing her family whole. She clutched her chest, feeling the weight of dread settle in. She tiptoes through the quiet hallway to each of her children's rooms, all safe. At breakfast, Mr. John laughs, still with the village nightmares, V. That reminds me of my encounter with this old woman, he chuckled. He told of how he met a strange old woman weeks before. That day, Mr. John slowed and let her in. "Come in, woman, let me help," he said. Her presence was calm but strange. She leaned forward, voice low. "Fast and pray before you reach the toll gate. The enemy waits." Mr. John forced a chuckle. "Mama, we've prayed enough. Let's not be too dramatic." The woman looks away, gazing out the window with sadness. The wind picked up. The woman whispered a final word. "Not all dangers come with sound. I didn't take her seriously anyway," Mr. John finally said. "Very superstitious old woman," he added. Back inside her room, Vivian knelt on the cold floor, her lips moving without sound. "God, go before us," she whispered. "Let no evil find our road." In the bedroom, Mr. John checked his watch. "We're wasting time again." Inside, the house buzzed with laughter and packed bags. Christmas was close. Vivian looked toward the kitchen window. A single palm leaf fluttered strangely. Though the air was still, she whispered, "Something's not right." Mr. John slammed the car door. "We move, prayers or not," he barked, brushing past Vivian.
Juliet rolled her eyes.
"It's just a trip, Mom. You act like we're going to war." The Sienna refused to start. Mr. John cursed under his breath and tried again. Chuka joked, "Maybe God wants us to fly instead." No one laughed. Mr. John stood up straight and slammed the hood. "We'll take public transport," he growled. "I'm not missing the day." Vivian looks to the sky. "We are not supposed to go today," she whispers. Vivian's hands trembled as she packed again. She prayed quietly under her breath, eyes filled with fear. Stella hugged her mother tight. "Are we still going, Mommy?" Her voice was barely a whisper. They stepped out together, a sleek silver Sienna, now useless behind them. The morning felt strange. A cab drove by the road. Mr. John waved to the driver. "Take us to the park," he said. Vivian hesitated by the curb, her feet rooted. "Let's wait till tomorrow," she whispered, but no one turned. Inside the car, silence filled the air. At the bus park, the family boards a Sienna commercial van. The driver glanced at them in the mirror, chewing gum. "You people heading to Enugu?" he asked flatly. "Yes," Mr. John replied. "Straight to the village." His voice was firm, final. Vivian whispered a quiet prayer under her breath. Her fingers traced a cross over her chest.
Juliet scrolled through her phone,
snapping selfies and sending voice notes, barely glancing at the road. Chuka laughed at a meme, showing it quickly to
Stella,
who just nodded and looked away. Mr. John dozed off slightly, arms still folded, mouth twitching with a half snore. Vivian glanced around at her family, each lost in their world, and quietly reached for her Bible. The van turned off the expressway onto a quieter road, lined with palm trees and dust. A light drizzle began, tapping gently on the windshield. The sky darkened a shade. Suddenly, the driver leaned forward.
"Sir, that woman they wave at us."
Mr. John squinted. "We don't have time for that. Just keep driving," he muttered, but Vivian touched his arm. "Wait," she said softly. "She might need help." Reluctantly, the van slowed down. The old woman's lips moved, but her words didn't match the rain. The woman's eyes locked with Vivian's. "There is danger ahead," she whispered. Mr. John scoffed, shaking his head. "I beg, madam, enter or let us go." The woman didn't enter. Instead, she touched the van's hood, murmuring something.
Stella
watched with wide eyes. "Mommy, who is she?" she whispered. Vivian didn't answer. Her hands were already folded in prayer. With a final look, the woman turned and walked back into the forest. The van moved again.
Juliet rolled her eyes
and plugged her ears. Chuka muttered, "All this drama for nothing," and resumed scrolling. Vivian opened her eyes. Her hands trembled as she closed her Bible. A pothole shook the van violently. Mr. John swore under his breath. Up ahead, the road narrowed into a stretch shrouded by forest on both sides. Vivian leaned forward. "This place, it feels wrong." Mr. John grunted. "Village roads are always like this. Nothing new." The forest darkened. The air grew heavy, pressing in on the van.
"Stella,"
he shivered. "Mummy, it's too dark."
Vivian started singing a quiet hymn, barely audible. Juliet turned to Chuka. "Did you hear that?" A whisper rode the wind. V. Vivian froze. Did anyone else hear that? No one answered. The van drove deeper into shadow. In the village, Mama Amaka stirred a black clay pot with a carved wooden stick. Her voice cracked. They must not arrive, not this time. She dropped a lock of hair into the pot. It sparked violently. Back in the van, the engine coughed twice, then roared louder. Vivian whispered, "Something's not right. We need to stop." "No," Mr. John snapped. "We're almost at the checkpoint." A soldier stepped forward, signaling the van to slow down. Mr. John exhaled. "Finally, see? Nothing to fear." Vivian's eyes darted. To the side of the road, a woman stood watching. She raised her hand slowly and pointed directly at Vivian. Vivian's heart skipped. Her hand flew to her chest. Mr. John leaned over from the driver's seat, frowning. "What is it now?" Vivian pointed outside. She pointed at me, but when Mr. John looked, the old woman was gone. He rubbed his eyes and muttered, "All of you are just seeing things." The driver started the engine, and the van rolled forward. But the silence inside was louder than the road.
Juliet
Stared out a window, fingers twitching nervously on her phone. Chuka removed his earbuds, suddenly uneasy. "Did you feel that?" he asked.
Stella
Clutched her teddy bear tighter. "Something is following us," she whispered. Vivian turned sharply. "Don't say that." Her voice trembled more than she meant it to. The young driver glanced nervously at Mr. John. "Should I keep going, sir?" John didn't answer immediately. He looked back at Vivian, then nodded once. Vivian clutched her handbag tightly. Her breath came fast. Without another word, the driver shifted gears and drove on. Behind the van, the old woman still stood. Her eyes burned with something ancient. Chuka leaned forward between the front seats, his face curious. "Who was that old woman, Dad?" he asked. Mr. John didn't answer immediately. His jaw tightened.
"She's just a mad woman," he muttered eventually. "I bet this is just Dad being dramatic again," she whispered. Vivian shot her daughter a warning look. "We're just going to visit Grandma," Vivian said gently, more to herself than to the children. Outside, the wind whispered through the tall grass. The driver's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror again. The road narrowed ahead, trees crowding in close, and somewhere, deep in the trees, something was watching. Something moved in the trees. Just for a second, Vivian's hand instinctively reached for Stella. The driver slowed the van. The road twisted ahead, like a serpent in waiting. From the bush ahead, something gleamed, something sharp. The tires screeched. The driver swerved. Too late. The van skidded, flipped once, twice, and slammed against a tree with a deafening crash. Silence. Then, Jesus. It was Vivian's voice. The flames halted. The smoke cleared. One by one, they emerged, without a scratch, except the driver, who died in the wreck. Far away, in the village, Mama Amaka laughed. "She'll never make it past the road," she muttered. But fate, no, something higher, had other plans. The family stumbled through thick bushland, hearts racing, breaths short. The road was gone, but the danger wasn't. A sharp crack, twigs breaking. They weren't alone. "Run!" Vivian screamed, grabbing Stella, bolting ahead. But Mr. John was too slow. They grabbed him. A blow to his leg, sharp, deliberate, dropped him to the ground. From the shadows, another figure emerged, hooded, silent. She raised her hand, a whisper, then silence. "We shouldn't have touched them," one muttered. They fled. In the distance, Vivian called out, her voice raw and desperate. Vivian's voice cracked as she cried, "God, if you saved us once, save us again." They limped through tangled weeds, barefoot and bruised. The hum of an engine, far off but growing louder. "They're searching," Chuka whispered, voice trembling. Suddenly, Stella sneezed, loud, sharp, a fatal sound. "There!" the voice roared. Boots thundered down the trail. Then, gunshots, 1, 2, echoing like thunder. Out of nowhere, horns, police sirens, voices shouting. "On the ground, now!" Vivian collapsed, tears streaming. They were saved. Later, in the back of the rescue van, Vivian held Stella close. Chuka, quiet for once, stared out the back window. His earbuds dangled uselessly, chest rising and falling. Juliet sat opposite them,
holding her phone tightly, knuckles white. Chuka pressed his face against the metal mesh, watching the road wind behind. Vivian winced as she shifted. Her side throbbed with every breath. Stella whispered, "Mama, will she come again?" Vivian's voice was hoarse. "No, baby. She won't hurt us again." The officer in front radioed in their location, his voice tense. "Survivors confirmed. Preparing village entry," the officer said. Vivian's eyes caught a familiar tree by the road. Her breath caught. That was where it all began, where she made her first prayer. As they approached the village gate, curious eyes peered from doorways. The van came to a slow stop near the village square. The officer stepped out first, scanning the gathering crowd. Then Vivian stepped down, holding Stella by the hand. Gasps echoed as Juliet and Chuka followed. "They survived," someone whispered. "After everything, they're alive." From a distance, Mama Amaka watched, hidden behind her curtain. Her lips trembled. It cannot be. The villagers turned as one to face her door. The whispers turned into murmurs. Then, footsteps. Mama Amaka didn't move. She said they won't return. Someone muttered. But they did. Mama Amaka's lip curled. "Careful what your mouth say." Back near the square, Vivian led the children toward a bench beneath the Iroko tree. Stella clung to Vivian's side. "Is that the woman who hurt Juliet?" Vivian's eyes darkened. "Yes, my dear, but you're safe now." Suddenly, a distant crack rang out. Birds burst from nearby trees. Then, another. Sharp, closer. The officer near the van shouted, "Gunshots!" Vivian rose, pulling Stella close. "Chuka, get behind me." Another shot rang out. This time, the van's windshield shattered. "Down! Everyone down!" the officer yelled, pulling his weapon. Vivian pushed the children behind the tree trunk, her eyes sharp. From the far side of the village, two masked men emerged from the underbrush. They moved like ghosts, heading straight for the van. Vivian's eyes narrowed. "Juliet," she whispered, "take Stella. Go to the stream path. Now." Juliet grabbed Stella's hand and bolted, disappearing behind a row of huts. Vivian turned to Chuka. "You know how to fight." He picked up a fallen stick. "I can try." Vivian rose slowly, stepping out from behind the tree. "Enough." One of the masked men aimed at her chest. "Step back." "Now." Vivian didn't move. "You don't know who I am, but you will." The other man lunged forward, too fast. Vivian turned, caught his wrist, and slammed his head into a knee. The first man fired. Too late. Vivian rolled, came up behind him, and knocked him out cold. The villagers watched in stunned silence. Who was this woman? The officer rushed forward, cuffing the fallen attackers. "You trained?" Vivian didn't answer. She only turned to check if the children were safe. Then, from the far compound, a scream. "The old witch is gone." The villagers flooded Mama Amaka's home, voices rising in confusion and anger. "She vanished," someone cried, "through the back window." Vivian arrived at the door, breathing hard. Her eyes swept the room. Dark charms hung from the rafters. Bones, feathers, dried blood. In a corner, Juliet found the old diary, her mother's. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she turned the pages. Her mother had tried to protect them. She had known. Suddenly, a boy shouted from the doorway, "There's something buried out back." They began to dig with bare hands, hearts pounding. Inside, wrapped in cloth, were names, written with blood. Vivian unfolded the papers, her breath catching. Juliet's name was there, circled. More names followed. Stella, Chuka, even her own. It was a curse, someone whispered. She offered them. A ripple of realization swept through the crowd. This was no ordinary woman. Vivian stood, clutching Juliet. "You were never abandoned. She stole you." The air turned still. A crow cawed in the distance. Suddenly, Stella screamed, "She's coming back." Mama Amaka stood there, wild-eyed, mouth chanting, charm swinging. She raised the bone charm, whispering words that curled the air.
Vivian stepped forward, voice rising like thunder. You will not harm them again. In the name above every name. Mama Amaka sneered. I am power. I am their blood. Vivian stepped closer. The Lord rebuke you. Your reign ends now. Thunder cracked. A gust of wind tore the charm from Mama Amaka's hand. Vivian's voice grew louder, full of holy fire. Every tongue that rises against these children, fall! Mama Amaka screamed, stumbling back. The charms turned to ash. A whirlwind rose, then collapsed into silence. Mama Amaka crumpled. Vivian fell to her knees, tears streaming. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. The darkness lifted. Mama Amaka's power was broken. Villagers began to weep, not in fear, but in release. Vivian held Juliet, Chuka, and Stella close. You are free. You are safe now. A cleansing fire burned through Mama Amaka's house. As Vivian staggered back from the spiritual showdown, Mr. John limped toward her, arms wide open. I thought I lost you, he whispered, brushing ashes from her face. Vivian, your prayer saved us. He lowered his gaze. I doubted all of it. Your prayers, your warnings. I'm sorry. Vivian placed a trembling hand over his heart. It wasn't me. It was God who heard the cries of his children. A village elder stepped forward, clutching a cracked Bible. We must cleanse this land, he said solemnly. She deceived us all, a woman muttered. She hurt children, for power. Others nodded, remembering strange disappearances, unexplained illness, buried suspicions. The elders declared the land free. Peace, long chased, had come home. One by one, they turned to Vivian, not as an outsider, but as a witness who had survived. A soft cry rose from behind. Stella tugged at Vivian's blouse. Can we go home now, Mommy? Vivian hugged her tightly. Yes, my baby. It's time to go where peace lives. Mr. John helped Juliet and Chuka into the van, careful with their wounds. Vivian glanced once more at the village, the place of their pain and their victory. A young boy ran forward, handing her a small carved wooden cross. From Papa, he whispered. She held it close, then nodded. Let's go. As the van pulled away, dust trailed behind, like a final whisper. Peace had not erased the pain, but it had started to bloom. And with every mile, they moved closer to healing. The villagers brought food, clothing, and quiet apologies. Vivian wrote to Lagos. We are safe. The children are healing. At last, Juliet and Chuka smiled without fear. And under the setting sun, peace finally stayed. Mr. John leaned against the wall of their hut, leg bandaged, watching his family laugh. He called Vivian to his side, voice low with gratitude. I didn't believe your prayers could save us, he whispered. Vivian smiled gently. It wasn't me, it was God. Sunday morning arrived with songs on the wind. In the distance, the village church bell rang. Vivian and the children prepared for church. John insisted on joining, limping slightly. In church, voices rose in thanksgiving. The pastor's sermon echoed. What was meant for evil, God turned to good. Villagers turned to look at Vivian's family with quiet awe. Chuka grinned at the drummer, then began to clap along. Mr. John turned to Vivian and whispered, Thank you for praying for us, even when I didn't. Vivian smiled, not with pride, but with peace. After service, an elder approached John. You are a living testimony, the elder said softly. Outside, the village breathed differently now. Lighter, freer. Back at home, Chuka played the drum as Juliet sang. Vivian knelt by the fire, tears of joy streaming. She whispered, Thank you, Lord. Even the road listened. Mr. John watched his family with new eyes. He whispered,
Maybe faith isn't weakness after all. In the ashes of Mama Amaka's evil, something new had bloomed. Because even roads, it seemed, could be moved by prayer. That afternoon, Chuka stood at the old field, a football at his feet, a smile on his face. Juliet sat under the mango tree, teaching small girls how to braid with kindness in her voice. Stella had a new friend, a girl with a gap tooth and a wild giggle. Vivian watched them from her doorstep, the corners of her eyes lined with tired grace. Mr. John sat beside her, bandaged leg outstretched, carving names into the wood of his walking stick. A breeze passed through the village like a breath let go. Children no longer feared shadows at night. They told stories again, of light, not curses. Juliet began writing again. Her first poem in months spoke only of dawn, and Chuka, for the first time, called Mr. John Papa. The village had not only survived the darkness, it had remembered how to hope. The bags were packed. The air smelled of farewell and roasted groundnuts. "Don't forget us," a little girl whispered to Stella. The village had changed, and so had the family. They drove past the charred remains of Mama Amaka's house, now a garden of yam leaves and sunflowers. On the road out, John reached for Vivian's hand. "I still don't understand everything," he said, "but I believe now." Faith had made a way where fear tried to build walls. Back in the city, the streetlights looked less harsh. Their home was no longer broken. It was blessed. Because when even the smallest heart whispers to God, roads bend, hope rises, and darkness turns to dawn.